down the window and put the gun outside the car. Roll down the passenger window and drop the gun outside the car.
Get her out! Come on! Let's go! Get medical rolling! Get medical rolling! Get medical!
Continuing coverage, a man accused of killing and dismembering his wife shot and killed by police. Burton police say it started Saturday when officers responded to a welfare check at Kings Lane Apartments.
Investigators say they received reports of a woman inside who was dead. TV5's Lanita Brooks joins us live from Burton with details. Lanita?
Burton police responded to Kings Lane Apartments for a welfare check just after 7 o'clock Saturday night. It was then when they arrived that they found a horrifying crime scene. They discovered 41-year-old Shauna Roy had been completely dismembered. Her body parts had been placed in garbage bags and set in the bathtub. It was then when officials determined her husband, 44-year-old Tony Roy, had killed her, mutilated her body, and left it in the apartment. A warrant for his arrest was issued Monday, and that same day, Michigan State Police attempted to arrest Roy in Detroit during a traffic stop at about 11:40 that night. Roy then met officers with a firearm, pointing the gun on himself, and then at a female passenger who was in the car with him. Officials say as he was pointing the gun towards that passenger, he was shot by multiple troopers, killing him on scene. As for the passenger, MSP says she suffered minor injuries.
Inside a bathtub in Burton, Michigan, police made a discovery so horrifying that veteran officers would struggle to put it into words. Plastic bags. Dismembered remains. And a text message sent from the victim's phone that read, "Hey honey, I'm okay, just been busy, love you." But Shauna Roy wasn't okay. She was dead. Murdered by the man she married. A man with 17 felony convictions she never knew about. A man who would beat her, strangle her, cut her body into pieces, and then pretend to be her. A man who, just days later, would hold another woman at gunpoint, sparking a shootout with police on a Detroit street. This is the story of how a cheerleader who dreamed of helping others fell in love with a monster online. How she confided to her best friend, "I'm afraid of him, but I don't know how to leave safely." How the justice system gave her abuser chance after chance, right up until he took her life. And how a single text message, missing just 2 small details, unraveled everything. Before we begin, I need you to do something. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe Shauna's story deserves to be heard, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Smash the like button so the algorithm shows this to more people. And when we're done, share this video. Because somewhere, someone is in the same situation Shauna was in. And your share could save their life. This isn't just true crime. This is a warning. This is a lesson. And this is a memorial. Content warning: this case involves domestic violence, murder, and dismemberment. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. But to understand how we got here, to that bathtub, those plastic bags, that fake text, we need to go back to where it all began. To a city known for producing music legends and tennis champions. To a place where the American dream and the American nightmare would collide in the most brutal way imaginable. Saginaw, Michigan sits on the Saginaw River, 15 miles inland from Saginaw Bay. It's a working-class city built on automotive manufacturing and industrial grit. The kind of place where neighbors know each other's names, where Friday night football matters, and where people take pride in honest work in tight-knit communities. This is the birthplace of Stevie Wonder. The city where Serena Williams came into the world. Saginaw produces champions, survivors, people who overcome. It's a city that represents the heartland of America, ordinary people building ordinary lives, chasing ordinary dreams. But Saginaw, like every city in America, has a darker side that hides behind closed doors. Domestic violence doesn't discriminate by zip code. It doesn't care if you're in a small town or a big city. It thrives in silence, in isolation, in the spaces between what people see in public and what happens in private. In 2020, as the world shut down for a pandemic, millions of Americans turned to their screens for connection. Dating apps exploded. Online relationships became the norm. People were lonely, isolated, desperate to feel less alone. And in that digital landscape, predators found new hunting grounds. Because online, anyone can be anyone. A man with 17 felony convictions can become Prince Charming. A violent abuser can present himself as a reformed soul looking for love. The pandemic created the perfect storm: isolation, desperation for connection, and the illusion of safety that comes from meeting someone through a screen instead of in person. No mutual friends to warn you. No shared history to vet them. Just a profile, some photos, and whatever story they choose to tell. This was the world Shauna Roy lived in. A world where she worked hard at an automotive company, where she dreamed of helping vulnerable adults, where she surrounded herself with family and friends who loved her. A safe world. A predictable world. And then, in that world, she swiped right on a man named Tony Roy. And everything, absolutely everything, would change. Shauna Roy was born on June 12, 1982, the youngest of 3 children in a loving Saginaw family. She was the kind of kid who lit up a room, a cheerleader at Saginaw High School, a member of student council, someone people gravitated toward. She graduated in 2000 with her whole life ahead of her. At Delta College, Shauna studied social work and psychology. Not because it was easy, but because she genuinely wanted to help people. She saw suffering in the world and thought, I can do something about that. It wasn't just a career choice, it was a calling. By 41, Shauna was working as a production operator at Nexteer Automotive, a global company that manufactures steering and driveline systems. She was proud of her work, proud to be part of a company delivering innovative solutions for the automotive industry. But her real dream? Opening an adult foster care facility right there in Saginaw. She wanted to create a safe space for vulnerable adults who needed support, care, dignity. That's who Shauna was, always thinking about how to help the next person. Her best friend, Dominique, described her as giggly and funny. More than a friend, she said, like a sister. Shauna had this bright smile that made you feel instantly welcome. When you were around her, you felt seen. You felt loved. She was the person you called when you needed support, and she'd drop everything to be there for you. Shauna loved the simple joys: movie nights with friends, game nights with family, going out to dinner and just laughing until her face hurt. She loved to travel too. She'd visited multiple states across the country and had big plans to go abroad someday. She wanted to see the world, experience different cultures, expand her understanding of people. Because that's what social workers do, they seek to understand, to connect, to heal. She was a daughter who called her mother regularly. A sister who showed up for family gatherings. A friend who remembered birthdays and checked in when you went quiet. She was the glue in her circle, the one who kept everyone together. And in 2020, when the world went into lockdown and loneliness became a pandemic of its own, Shauna did what millions of others did. She went online looking for connection. Looking for companionship. Looking for love. She met Tony Roy on a dating platform. He was charming. Attentive. He told her he'd made mistakes in his past, but he was a changed man now. He said all the right things. And Shauna, who spent her life seeing the best in people, who devoted her career to believing people could change, believed him. She had no idea she was talking to a man who'd been in and out of prison since 1999. A man with 17 felony convictions. A man with a documented history of violence, assault, armed robbery, domestic abuse, fleeing from police, drug possession. She had no idea because he lied about all of it. He created a completely false identity. And dating apps don't require background checks. There was no way for Shauna to know she was falling in love with a predator. They dated for 2 years. And on July 22, 2022, Shauna Roy married Tony Roy. She thought she was marrying her future. She had no idea she was signing her death warrant. The marriage turned toxic almost immediately. Tony Roy wasn't the man he pretended to be online, and now that Shauna was legally bound to him, the mask came off. He became controlling. Obsessively controlling. He monitored her phone calls and text messages constantly. He accused her of cheating, classic abuser behavior, projecting paranoia to justify surveillance. He isolated her from the people who loved her, cutting off her access to friends and family who might recognize what was happening and try to help her escape. Then he forced her to quit her job at Next Year Automotive. The job she was proud of. The job that gave her independence, income, identity. Gone. Because abusers know that financial dependence is a chain that keeps victims trapped. Next, he made her move from Saginaw to Burton, a city 40 miles away. It sounds like nothing, but for someone being abused, 40 miles might as well be 400. It removed Shauna from her support system, from the streets she knew, from the people who would notice if she went missing. Burton was Tony's territory. And in his territory, he had complete control. What Shauna didn't know when she married him was that Tony had a rap sheet that read like a career criminal's resume. 17 felony convictions dating back to 1998. Assault with intent to do great bodily harm. Armed robbery, multiple counts. Domestic violence against previous partners. Fleeing police. Cocaine possession. He'd spent more than 2 decades in and out of Michigan prisons. And here's the part that should make your blood boil, Tony was on parole when he married Shauna. The state of Michigan knew exactly who he was, knew his history of violence, and allowed him to date, court, and marry a woman without any meaningful supervision. It gets worse. In March 2023, just 4 months before he would murder Shauna, Tony was charged with aggravated domestic violence. Someone reported him. The system had a chance to intervene, to protect Shauna, to lock him up before it was too late. The case was dismissed in April. We don't know why. Maybe the victim wouldn't testify. Maybe there was a procedural error. Maybe the prosecutor's office was overworked and underfunded. It doesn't matter. The result was the same, Tony walked free. And Shauna stayed trapped. By July 2023, Tony had stopped reporting to his parole officer. On July 11th, the Michigan Department of Corrections officially listed him as an absconder. He was actively violating parole, actively avoiding supervision. And still, no one came for him. Meanwhile, Shauna was confiding in her best friend Dominique. She told her that Tony had hit her. Multiple times. She said she was afraid of him. And then she said something that should haunt everyone who hears this story: I want to leave, but I don't know how to do it safely. Shauna knew. Statistically, the most dangerous time for a domestic violence victim is when they try to leave. That's when abusers escalate. That's when control turns to rage. That's when bruises turn to murder. Shauna knew this, she'd studied psychology, she understood human behavior. And she was terrified. But she was also reaching her breaking point. She'd been cut off from her job, her city, her independence. She'd been hit, monitored, accused, controlled. And she'd had enough. So she started planning. She would tell Tony she wanted a divorce. She would move back to Saginaw, back to her family, back to safety. On July 14, 2023, Shauna Roy made her move. She told her husband she wanted a divorce and that she was leaving him. Tony's response was to kill her. July 14, 2023. Their apartment in Burton, on Kings Lane. An argument that would end in unspeakable horror. Shauna told Tony she wanted a divorce. She told him she was moving back to Saginaw to be with her family. This was her escape plan: return to her support system, rebuild her life, finally be free of him. Tony became enraged. The control he'd worked so hard to establish was slipping away, and abusers cannot tolerate that. He attacked her with his fists. Then he grabbed a metal pipe and beat her with it. And when she was broken and defenseless, he strangled her to death with a belt. The woman who'd spent her entire life helping others died begging for mercy from the man she tried to love. But Tony didn't stop there. What happened next reveals the depths of his depravity. He dismembered Shauna's body with a knife and a saw. He put her remains in plastic bags. He placed those bags in the bathtub. Then he methodically cleaned the apartment, wiping down walls, scrubbing floors, erasing evidence. He disposed of some of the evidence in a dumpster, casually, like he was taking out the trash. This wasn't a crime of passion that spiraled out of control. This was calculated destruction. This was a man who killed his wife and then spent hours ensuring no one would find out. The next day, July 15th, Tony picked up Shauna's phone. He opened her text messages. And he sent a message to her best friend Dominique. "Hey honey, I'm okay, just been busy, love you." He thought this would buy him time. He thought he could impersonate Shauna, keep people from asking questions, give himself room to run. But Dominique knew immediately that something was catastrophically wrong. Shauna never called her honey. Never. And Shauna always used emojis in her texts. This message had neither Shauna's voice nor her style. It was wrong. Everything about it was wrong. Dominique tried calling back. No answer. She called again. Nothing. Panic setting in now, she contacted Shauna's mother and sister. None of them had heard from Shauna in days. The silence was deafening. That's when they made the decision that would expose Tony's nightmare. They called the police and requested a welfare check on Shauna at her Burton apartment. On the evening of July 15th, around 7:20 p.m., Burton police arrived at Kings Lane Apartments. They knocked on Shauna's door. No response. They knocked again, louder, identifying themselves. Still nothing. They forced entry. What they found inside would haunt them for the rest of their careers. Blood on the walls. Blood on the floors. Blood on the furniture. Tools and weapons scattered around the apartment. And in the bathtub, plastic bags containing Shauna's dismembered body. She'd been dead for days. The crime scene was one of the most horrific veteran officers had ever encountered. This wasn't just murder. This was desecration. This was a man erasing his wife like she'd never existed. Burton police immediately launched a homicide investigation. They collected blood samples, fingerprints, DNA evidence, the tools Tony used, the weapons, the plastic bags. They interviewed neighbors, friends, family members. And very quickly, they identified their suspect, Tony Roosevelt Roy, Shauna's husband, convicted felon, domestic abuser, and now, murderer. They obtained warrants for his arrest. Open murder. Mutilation of a dead body. And then they started tracking him using cell phone data. Tony had fled. He'd driven 40 miles to Detroit, where he had contacts and relatives. He was armed, dangerous, and had absolutely nothing left to lose. A multi-agency manhunt was underway. Michigan State Police and Detroit Police Department joined the search. For 2 days, Tony Roy was a ghost. But on July 17th, just after midnight, his luck ran out. July 17th, 2023. Just after midnight. Telegraph Road and 7 Mile Road in Detroit. Michigan State Police troopers spotted Tony Roy's vehicle during a routine traffic stop. They had no idea they were about to confront a man who just murdered and dismembered his wife. They approached the vehicle cautiously. And that's when they saw it. Tony had a gun in his hand. He pointed it at himself first. The troopers froze, trying to assess the situation, trying to de-escalate. Then Tony turned the gun away from his own head and aimed it directly at the female passenger sitting next to him. A woman who had nothing to do with Shauna's murder. A woman in the wrong place at the absolute worst time. The troopers had seconds to make an impossible decision. A woman's life was in immediate danger. They opened fire.
Roll down the window and put the gun outside the car. Roll down the passenger window and drop the gun outside the car.
Get her out! Come on! Let's go! Get medical rolling! Get her medical! Hey, He's out, unresponsive.
Multiple shots rang out on a Detroit street in the middle of the night. Tony Roy was killed instantly. The female passenger suffered minor injuries from shattered glass but survived. The officers involved were placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Standard protocol after any officer-involved shooting. When police searched the vehicle, they found Shauna's belongings. Her purse. Her wallet. Her ID. Her phone, the same phone Tony had used to send that fake text to Dominique. He'd been carrying pieces of her life while running from the fact that he'd taken her life. Tony Roy died the way he lived, violently, selfishly, threatening to take someone else down with him. He'd murdered his wife, desecrated her body, fled from justice, and in his final moments, he nearly killed an innocent woman. Even at the end, he was a predator. But his death didn't bring Shauna back. And it didn't answer the questions that still echo: how did this happen? How does a man with 17 felony convictions, a history of domestic violence, and an active parole violation get the chance to murder his wife? Where were the systems designed to protect her? Shauna Roy's family and friends were shattered by her death. Dominique, the best friend who knew something was wrong from a single text message, was devastated. She tried to warn Shauna about Tony, tried to tell her something wasn't right. But as she said, Shauna was blinded by love and refused to listen. That's the guilt survivors carry, the what-ifs that never stop echoing. Shauna's mother, father, and siblings took to social media with tributes that mixed grief with rage. They called Shauna a beautiful soul who didn't deserve such a cruel fate. They called Tony a monster who robbed us of our loved one and then took the coward's way out. Their anger is justified. Their pain is unimaginable. The dream Shauna had, opening an adult foster care facility, helping vulnerable adults, making a difference, died with her. She never got to travel abroad. She never got to rebuild her life in Saginaw. She never got to escape. But Shauna's death forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the systems that failed her. Tony Roy had 17 felony convictions. He'd assaulted people. He'd committed armed robbery. He had a documented history of domestic violence. And yet, he was on parole, free to date, free to marry, free to isolate and abuse Shauna. In March 2023, just 4 months before he killed her, Tony was charged with aggravated domestic violence. The system had a chance to stop him. The case was dismissed in April. Why? We may never know. But the result was Shauna's death. On July 11th, Tony was listed as an absconder from parole. He'd stopped reporting to his parole officer. He was actively violating the terms of his release. And still, no urgent action was taken to bring him in. 3 days later, Shauna was dead. These aren't just bureaucratic failures. These are fatal gaps in a system that's supposed to protect victims. How many chances does a violent predator get before someone says, enough? And then there's the online dating component. Tony completely fabricated his identity. Shauna had no way to verify his criminal history because dating platforms don't require background checks. She was a social worker who believed people could change, and she was manipulated by a man who'd spent decades proving he wouldn't. The most dangerous time for a domestic violence victim is when they try to leave. Shauna knew this. She told Dominique, "I don't know how to leave safely." She understood the risk. And she was right to be afraid. Statistically, when victims of domestic abuse attempt to leave their abusers, the risk of homicide increases by 75%. Strangulation, the method Tony used, is one of the deadliest predictors. Women who've been strangled by their partners are 8 times more likely to eventually be killed by them. Shauna's story isn't unique. Every day in America, 3 women are murdered by their intimate partners. Every single day. Domestic violence thrives in silence, in isolation, in systems that give abusers second, third, and 17th chances. But here's what can change. If you know someone who's being isolated from their friends and family, that's abuse. If someone is monitoring their partner's phone, accusing them constantly, controlling their finances, forcing them to quit their job, that's abuse. Trust your instincts. Reach out. Keep the lines of communication open. If you're in an abusive relationship, please know, leaving is dangerous, but staying can be fatal. Make a safety plan. Contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can also text START to 88788. There are people who will help you leave safely. You are not alone. Shauna Roy was 41 years old. She was a cheerleader, a social worker, a production operator with dreams of opening a care facility. She was giggly and funny. She made everyone feel loved. She wanted to help people. On July 14, 2023, she told her abusive husband she wanted a divorce. He murdered her, dismembered her body, and fled. Police shot and killed him 3 days later during a standoff. Justice came too late for Shauna. But her story, this story, can still save lives. If this case moved you, if you think Shauna's story matters, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts respectfully. Shauna's family may see this. And most importantly, if you see the warning signs in your own life or someone else's, act. Speak up. Reach out. Check the description below for domestic violence resources and links to related cases. Shauna Roy. Born June 12, 1982. Died July 14, 2023. 41 years old. Gone, but never forgotten. Rest in peace, Shauna. We will not forget you. Your story will save lives.
The man accused of killing his estranged wife here in Jackson and then barricading himself in an apartment complex leasing office now faces a murder charge. 52-year-old Ron Christopher Allen is accused of killing 24-year-old Malaya Bess. A deadly shooting happened at the Westwood Apartments on Robinson Street.
That fatal shooting happening here at the leasing office at Westwood Apartments. In fact, you can even see the bloodstains are still on the mat at the front entrance door of the leasing office. We found out Bess worked as a property manager here at the complex. We also learned that her husband, Ron Christopher Allen, is being accused of shooting her 7 times after finding out she had a boyfriend.
What started as a Valentine's Day wedding would end in tragedy just 5 months later. On July 31st, 2025, a routine workday at a Jackson, Mississippi apartment complex became the scene of a deadly domestic violence incident that shocked an entire community. This is the story of Malaya Bess and the husband who couldn't let her go. Welcome back to True Crime Tales HQ, and today we're examining a case that highlights the deadly reality of domestic violence. One that shows how quickly love can turn to obsession, and obsession to murder. Before we dive in, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support helps us bring these important stories to light. Malaya Bess was just 24 years old, working as a leasing agent at the Westwood Apartments on Robinson Road in Jackson, Mississippi. By all accounts, she was exactly the kind of employee every business hopes for: professional, dedicated, and genuinely caring toward residents.
Come to work with me as a leasing agent. So usually first I have to pop my way in through the back and get to the office, make sure I have the office door unlocked. I'm usually there at least between 10 to 15 minutes before opening to make sure that, everything's situated. Make sure the blinds are open, office is set up, make sure all the not flyers, but like brochures and everything set up on my desk. I'm checking out to see if any notes is left from security or any residents that may have had any issues last night or wanted to leave, something in the rent box, read my devotion. And then here I am in my planner, write down everything that I usually need to do for the day, and then I check my emails as well as prospects to make sure we have any applications, or if I have any questions, work orders. Have to make sure you check that daily to make sure you're keeping up with the property. And here we got a move-in today. I'm talking with maintenance to go over if we had any work orders or any move-ins for make-readies, punches, anything like that. And I also had a tour today showing one of our beautiful one-bedroom units that we have available. It's my favorite.
Malaya was building the life she wanted. A recent graduate of Jackson State University, she had found her footing as a property manager, earning respect from colleagues and residents alike. Those who knew her described her as mature beyond her years, career-driven, and someone who always looked out for others. But Malaya's personal life told a different story. She had married Ron Christopher Allen on Valentine's Day 2025, a romantic gesture that would prove to have sinister undertones. Their marriage had lasted only 6 months before ending in this tragedy. Ron Christopher Allen was 52 years old, 28 years older than his new bride. A father of 3 with a troubled past, Allen had been struggling with prescription drug addiction and had multiple run-ins with the law, including pending court cases he had failed to appear for. Friends and family had concerns about this relationship from the beginning: the significant age gap, Allen's history, and what they witnessed of his behavior toward Malaya raised red flags that, tragically, would prove justified. According to court testimony, Allen had recently completed a 28-day rehabilitation program in New Jersey, claiming to have been sober since July 3rd. But sobriety from drugs doesn't cure the deeper issues that drive someone to violence. Within months of their February wedding, cracks began to show in what had seemed like a fairy tale romance. Malaya confided in her friends that she was concerned about her safety. She had moved out of the home she shared with Allen, a decision that likely saved her life temporarily, but not permanently. Allen had become increasingly possessive and controlling. He began showing up uninvited at Malaya's workplace, harassing her and creating an atmosphere of fear. Witnesses would later testify that this behavior had escalated in the days leading up to the tragedy. In the aftermath of this tragedy, social media has been flooded with claims and counterclaims about what led to this deadly confrontation. It's important that we address these allegations while being clear about what is verified fact versus unconfirmed speculation. Multiple social media posts have alleged that Malaya was having an affair with a maintenance worker at the apartment complex where she worked. Additionally, claims have emerged that she had taken approximately $70,000 from Allen without his knowledge and was planning to divorce him. One particularly notable post came from someone claiming to be Allen's nephew, identified as Monaj Jay, who wrote on Facebook, "That's my uncle, and it's way more to the story. She married for money. She took $70,000 from him without him knowing, and more." Now here's what we need to understand about these allegations. None of these claims have been verified by law enforcement or presented as evidence in court proceedings. They represent one side of a story being told by someone with obvious emotional investment in defending Allen. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that some or all of these allegations were true. Would any of them justify what happened to Malaya Bess? Would infidelity justify 7 gunshots? Would financial disputes warrant execution in a workplace? The answer is unequivocally no. This is a crucial point in understanding domestic violence cases. Abusers and their supporters often attempt to justify violence by cataloging their victims' alleged wrongdoings. This victim-blaming narrative serves to deflect responsibility from the person who chose violence as a solution to relationship problems. One friend recalled that Allen had visited just the day before the shooting, sitting on her couch, discussing their relationship problems. There was nothing alarming. I didn't feel anything.
She did not want to leave him. She had to leave him, and he didn't want her to leave him. She had to leave him because she just had to for her own safety. As we can see, she did not feel safe sleeping next to him.
Manisha Simmons is a close friend of Bess. She said their relationship was rocky, causing Bess to move out of their shared home and in with a friend. Simmons said Allen was also harassing her at work.
He was actually at my house yesterday on my couch.
Sure was.
And we talked, about them working the relationship out or whatever. And he left. It wasn't nothing alarming. I didn't feel anything.
This speaks to how skilled abusers can be at hiding their true intentions, even from those closest to the situation.
July 31st, 2025 started like any other day at the Westwood Apartments. Malia arrived for work, likely thinking about lease applications, maintenance requests, and the dozens of small tasks that make up a property manager's day. She had no way of knowing that her estranged husband was planning something unthinkable. At approximately 11 a.m., Allen arrived at the apartment complex. According to police reports and witness testimony, he went directly to the leasing office where Malia worked. What happened next was captured in chilling detail through witness statements. One person heard the first gunshot and opened the office door to find Malia holding her side. When that witness shut the door, they heard additional shots fired. Police Chief Joseph Wade would later confirm that Allen shot Malia 7 times. 7 times. This wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of lost control. This was an execution.
And the breaking news in the last 15 minutes, Jackson police identified the woman killed after being shot at a Jackson apartment complex. Hello, I'm Erin Pickens.
And I'm Megan West. Jackson police say the 35th homicide of the year is the result of a domestic situation that turned into a standoff. Police identified the victim as 24-year-old Malia Bass. People who knew her said she worked at the apartments. Police said she was shot and killed by her husband, 52-year-old Ron Christopher Allen. The shooting happened in the leasing office of the Westwood Apartments in the 3100 block of Robinson Street. 16 WABT crews have been on the scene since about 11 o'clock this morning when several law enforcement agencies responded. We have team coverage tonight with Beth Al Miles, who spoke with those who knew the victim. But we begin with 16 WABT's Crystal Tisme with what we know about the situation right now. Crystal.
Well, police believe this was a domestic dispute with Allen shooting and killing his wife after she expressed wanting to end the relationship. A standoff in broad daylight. Jackson police responded to a domestic situation at the Westwood Apartments. One person is dead, another in handcuffs.
This was his wife, my understanding. She worked here at this location, and he came to this location and took her life. I really wish that we could have done more to prevent this, but we have people that don't know how to deal with emotions, who do not know how to deal with somebody wanting to move on with their life.
Jackson Police Chief Joseph Wade said a man opened fire at the apartment complex where his wife worked before barricading himself inside for 3 hours. Police believe she was trying to move on from the relationship. Chief Wade said multiple law enforcement agencies worked together to get the suspect to turn himself in.
This shows ultimate collaboration in law enforcement. You have the chief of the Clinton Police Department out here. We have the Byron Police Department, Clinton Police Department, Capitol Police Department, Hines County, JPD. We all work collectively to make sure that nobody else lost their life.
Chief Wade says this was a tragic situation and loss to the community.
This family has been, destroyed because of this, heinous, callous act in our community.
After killing his wife, Allen barricaded himself inside the leasing office, beginning a standoff that would last over 3 hours. Multiple law enforcement agencies responded. Jackson Police, Hines County Sheriff's Department, Byron Police, Clinton Police, and Capitol Police. Hostage negotiators were called to the scene. During this time, something particularly disturbing occurred. Witnesses called Malia's cell phone to check on her. Allen answered, and according to police testimony, he admitted to killing her. Think about that for a moment. While law enforcement worked to resolve the situation peacefully, Allen was on his victim's phone, confessing his crime to her friends and loved ones. The psychological cruelty of that act cannot be overstated. After 3 hours, Allen surrendered to police. Officers found him covered in Malia's blood, the weapon recovered at the scene. The mobile crime unit processed what one officer described as a scene with a lot of blood in the leasing office. Police Chief Wade praised his officer's restraint. He said, "We could have barged in, and that could have possibly caused him to open fire on law enforcement, but we didn't. We utilized our hostage team, which did an amazing job." Allen was arrested and charged with murder. During his court appearance on August 1st, Judge June Hardwick denied bond, citing the egregious nature of the crime. In the wake of this tragedy, several important details emerged that paint a picture of an escalating domestic violence situation that the system failed to prevent. Malia had taken steps to protect herself. She had moved out, she had confided in friends about her safety concerns, but as we see too often in domestic violence cases, leaving an abuser can be the most dangerous time for victims. Statistics show that a woman's risk of being killed increases by 75% when she leaves an abusive relationship. Malia Best became part of this tragic statistic. Returning to those social media allegations we discussed earlier, whether true or false, they represent a dangerous pattern we see repeatedly in domestic violence cases. When an abuser kills their partner, supporters emerge to explain why the victim deserved it or brought it on themselves. This victim blaming serves no purpose except to further traumatize grieving families and loved ones while providing psychological cover for the perpetrator. No matter what problems existed in this marriage, Malia Best did not deserve to die for them. The Malia Best case serves as a stark reminder of the reality of domestic violence in America. Every minute, approximately 20 people are physically abused by an intimate partner. That equals more than 10 million people a year. The warning signs were there: the age gap, the controlling behavior, the drug addiction, the criminal history, the escalating harassment at a workplace. But recognizing these signs and knowing how to respond to them safely are two different things. As one of Malia's friends warned after her death, even if you're not afraid, even if every shadow of doubt in your mind says that person would never do that to you, if they threaten you one time, take it seriously.
Even if you're not afraid, even if by every single shadow of a doubt in your mind, you think that that person would never do that to you, if they threaten you one time, take it seriously.
If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out for help. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24/7 at 1-800-799-7233. They provide confidential support and can help create a safety plan. Malia Best was 24 years old. She was building a career, trying to create a life for herself, and deserved to feel safe in her workplace and in her relationships. Her death was preventable, and her memory deserves better than speculation and blame. Let's honor her memory by taking domestic violence seriously, by believing victims when they tell us they're afraid, and by working to create a world where leaving an abusive relationship doesn't become a death sentence.
Thank you for watching. Please like this video if it was informative, subscribe for more true crime content, and most importantly, share domestic violence resources with others who might need them. I'll see you in the next video.
She's not her! She's the one who shot her! She's the one who shot her! Restraining order, but she shot her! The gun in the car. The gun in the car. Oh my fucking God! I'm the page in your car, how you feel? She was drunk there, get up, you scared as hell, alright? Scared as hell. She did it, baby. Scared as hell, that is not self-defense. You were trying to self in the car, bro. You're trying to hit the car, bro. What are you talking about? You had her in a headlock. And then you shot her, Brody. I was there. I'll write a statement. I'm arrested. There's a fucking gun on the street. I'm licensed to carry. It doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter, bitch. You shot somebody, nigga. What the fuck wrong with you? Calm down. Calm the fuck down. He out his mother. I'm over here. He out his. She put the gun in the car. The gun she shot her. This girl right here. She shot her. She shot her. She put the.
At exactly 9:35 a.m. on September 8, 2025, surveillance cameras captured something that would shatter a Chicago community forever. Multiple gunshots echoed through the busy streets of Chicago's South Loop. A mother lay dying on the asphalt, blood pooling around her head. Her killer stood nearby, calmly talking on her cell phone, showing no remorse for what she'd just done. The woman bleeding out on South State Street was Romika Meeks, a 31-year-old devoted mother who had just dropped her son off at school. The woman who pulled the trigger. Holly Johnson, the girlfriend of Romika's ex, the father of her child. The man who held Romika in a headlock while his new girlfriend executed her. Carlos Lozos Way, the very person Romika had tried to escape through a restraining order. But here's what makes this case absolutely haunting. Just hours before her brutal execution, Romika had written her son a love note that would become her final goodbye. Happy Monday, son, this is a fresh start to this day and you can start off strong. Always remain yourself. You're the coolest, smartest, and funniest kid I know. I love you so much and you make me so proud. Have a great day. Mommy loves you. Love, Mommy. Those were the last words of love she would ever give him. Because within hours, the woman who packed that note with such tenderness would be gunned down in broad daylight, in front of witnesses, outside a school, all because she dared to move on from a toxic relationship. This isn't just another headline about Chicago violence. This is a story about femicide. About what happens when love turns into obsession, when control becomes murder, and when the justice system fails to protect women who try to escape dangerous men. Like, subscribe and hit that notification bell right now because what I'm about to reveal about this case will make you question everything you think you know about restraining orders, self-defense laws, and the deadly consequences of toxic relationships. Before we dive deep into this tragedy, I need to know, when you first heard about this case, what was your gut reaction? Did you think this was a crime of passion or premeditated murder? Drop your honest answer in the comments right now because by the end of this video, your perspective might completely change. To understand the magnitude of what was lost that September morning, you need to know who Romika Meeks really was. This wasn't just another statistic in Chicago's violence epidemic. This was a woman who had overcome tremendous odds to build something beautiful from nothing. Romika was a devoted mother who was always there for her son, working multiple jobs to provide for their future. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. A close friend of Meeks says she was in school working to become a nurse, chasing dreams that would better not just her life, but her son's future too. But Romika was more than her ambitions. She was the kind of mother who wrote daily love notes. She was the woman who packed lunches with care, who made even Monday mornings feel special for her child. Her social media showed glimpses of pure joy, a woman dancing, laughing, celebrating the simple moments that make life beautiful. Friends described her as hardworking, joyful, and completely devoted to her son. This was a woman who had made McDonald's her stepping stone, not her destination. She was a manager there, but nursing school represented her bigger dreams. She was building something sustainable, something lasting, something that would give her child the kind of life she'd always dreamed of providing. Every morning ritual was the same. Pack the lunch with love. Write a note of encouragement. Make sure her son knew he was the center of her universe. Always remain yourself. You're the coolest, smartest, and funniest kid I know. These weren't just words to Romika. This was her mission as a mother, to build up her child's confidence, to remind him daily of his worth, to be the foundation he could always count on. September 8th was supposed to be just another Monday. Another love note, another school drop-off, another step toward the future she was building for them both. Instead, it became the day her dreams died with her in a Chicago street. Now let me tell you about the man who would orchestrate her destruction. Carlos Lozos Way, known on Facebook as #RackBoyLoso, wasn't some random stranger. He was the father of Romika's child, the man she once loved, the person she tried desperately to escape. Their relationship had started like many young romances, full of hope and promises of building a family together. But somewhere along the way, love turned toxic. Carlos became a man who cheated, lied, and avoided the responsibilities of fatherhood while expecting Romika to remain devoted to him. Social media users pointed to a man known online as #Racbueloso, aka Carlos Lozo's Way, identified by some as the father of the child and a central figure in the altercation's backstory. But Carlos wasn't just irresponsible, he was dangerous. As Romika grew stronger and more independent, Carlos grew more controlling. When she finally found the courage to leave him, to file that restraining order, to try to build a safe life for herself and their son, Carlos couldn't accept it. In his mind, Romika belonged to him. Her attempts at independence weren't strength, they were betrayal. By 2025, Carlos had moved on to a new relationship with Holly Johnson, and they had a child together. But moving on didn't mean letting go of his control over Romika. If anything, having a new woman in his life seemed to amplify his need to demonstrate power over his ex. Murdered Chicago mom Romika Meeks had a restraining order against her ex and the father of her son, according to multiple reports on social media from accounts following the case. Think about that. Romika had done everything right. She'd left the toxic relationship. She'd gotten legal protection. She'd tried to create boundaries. But Carlos didn't respect boundaries. And the woman he'd chosen to be with didn't respect them either. Holly Johnson wasn't an innocent bystander caught up in someone else's drama. She was an active participant in the escalating war against Romika's independence. The alleged shooter is Holly Johnson, who remains in custody and claims she acted in self-defense. But here's what makes Holly's role so chilling. Commentators on social media allege that the alleged shooter had placed a restraining order against the victim. Think about the twisted psychology of that. Holly had a restraining order against Romika, yet she showed up at Romika's son's school with Carlos, the very man Romika had a restraining order against. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't an accidental encounter. This was a planned confrontation. Johnson allegedly claimed to possess a valid concealed carry license, and after the shooting, the girlfriend repeatedly told people on the scene that she's licensed to carry. But having a license to carry doesn't give you a license to kill. It doesn't turn murder into self-defense. Witnesses described Holly's behavior after the shooting as disturbing. The immediate aftermath was caught on video, too graphic to republish, showing a blood-splattered scene of the victim on the ground next to a white sedan while the suspect dressed in green leggings and a black sweater continues to talk on the cell phone the whole time. No shock. No remorse. No attempt to help the woman she just shot. Just casual conversation on her phone while Romika bled out nearby. That's not the behavior of someone who just defended themselves. That's the behavior of someone who got exactly what they wanted. September 8, 2025, started like any other Monday for Romika. She woke up early, prepared her son's lunch with the same care she showed every day, and wrote him another one of her encouraging notes. Happy Monday, son, this is a fresh start to this day and you can start off strong. Always remain yourself, you're the coolest, smartest and funniest kid I know. I love you so much. Love, Mommy. She posted a photo of the note to her Instagram, sharing her pride in being his mother with the world. This was her ritual, her way of making sure her son knew he was loved not just privately, but publicly. She wanted the world to see how much she adored this child. After packing his lunch and gathering his school supplies, they made the drive to his school in the South Loop. The same route they'd taken countless times before. The same morning routine that gave structure to their lives. For Romika, this was just another step in their day: drop off her son, head to work, pick him up later, help with homework, repeat. She had no way of knowing that Carlos and Holly were already planning to intercept her. After dropping her son off at his school in the South Loop/Chinatown area of Chicago, her ex, her child's father, Carlos Lozo's Way, and his current partner confronted Meeks. Think about the calculated nature of this. They didn't confront her at her home, where neighbors might intervene. They didn't approach her at work, where security might be present. They waited until she was at her most vulnerable moment, right after saying goodbye to her child, when she was alone and unprotected. Witnesses report that Meek's child's father was present despite an active restraining order against him and his girlfriend. Carlos wasn't supposed to be anywhere near Romika. The legal system had specifically ordered him to stay away. But restraining orders are just pieces of paper, and Carlos had already proven he didn't respect boundaries. What happened next wasn't a fight that escalated out of control. It wasn't a heated argument that turned violent. It was a planned execution carried out in broad daylight, with witnesses, in front of a school. During the fight, Meeks was reportedly placed in a headlock. In those moments, Johnson pulled out a firearm and shot Meeks in the face at close range. Let me break down exactly what the witnesses saw, because this sequence of events destroys any claim of self-defense. First, Carlos, the man under a restraining order, physically restrained Romika in a headlock. Reports say Meeks' ex, Carlos Lozo's Way, put her in a headlock while his new partner shot and killed Meeks at close range. This wasn't Romika attacking anyone. This was Romika being held immobile by a man much larger and stronger than her. While Carlos held her helpless, Holly made a deliberate choice. She walked to her vehicle, retrieved her weapon, returned to where Carlos was restraining Romika, and fired multiple shots at point-blank range. At some point the female assailant, Holly Johnson, pulled out a gun and fired off 4 rounds, including a gunshot to the victim's face. 4 rounds. Not one shot in panic. Not an accidental discharge. 4 deliberate shots fired into a woman who was being physically restrained and couldn't defend herself. Eyewitnesses say the gun was fired at extremely close range, striking Meeks in the face, specifically the chin, and the thigh. This wasn't random gunfire. These were targeted shots designed to kill. Witnesses immediately recognized what they'd seen. Witnesses in the video are heard yelling that Way had Meeks in a headlock before the other woman shot her. One woman is heard demanding that the police arrest the woman, saying that she saw her shoot the victim and place the gun in her car. The community knew they'd witnessed an execution, not self-defense. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, while Romika lay dying on the asphalt, Holly's behavior revealed her true character. The suspect dressed in green leggings and a black sweater continues to talk on the cell phone the whole time while in the background a man in black, the baby daddy to both women, appears to be in a state of distress. Think about that image. A woman has just been shot multiple times in the face. She's bleeding to death on the street. And the person who pulled the trigger is casually talking on her phone as if nothing significant has happened. When questioned by witnesses and police, Holly's response was immediate: "I have a license to carry." Not, "I was scared for my life." Not, "She attacked me first." Not, "I didn't mean for this to happen." Her first instinct was to cite her legal right to carry a weapon. But witnesses weren't buying it. "I don't give a You shot somebody. What the F is wrong with you?" One woman responded. "She shot her. She put the gun in the car. Arrest her," another witness told police. The people who saw what happened knew this wasn't self-defense. They'd watched Carlos hold Romika while Holly executed her. They'd seen the deliberate nature of the attack. They weren't going to let Holly rewrite the narrative. Johnson is accused of pulling out a firearm and shooting Meeks multiple times. Police said Johnson remained at the scene, where her weapon was recovered, and she was immediately taken into custody. Meanwhile, Carlos's reaction revealed his own guilt. Posted the baby daddy, Carlos Lozo's Way, shortly after the shooting on his Facebook wall: "Worst day of my life." The worst day of his life. The mother of his child had just been murdered, and Carlos was making himself the victim. The post led to 9,000 shares and over 7,300 comments, many of which criticized the father's actions along with his failure to de-escalate the situation and for having incited the altercation which led to Romika Meeks' shooting death. The community saw right through his performance. "Boy, I ain't see a single tear in that video," wrote another. "Stop acting like you ain't know what was going to happen." Responded another, "Trying to figure out why you ain't locked up yet." This case exposes a fundamental flaw in how our legal system handles domestic violence and restraining orders. Witnesses report that Meeks' child's father was present despite an active restraining order against him and his girlfriend. Both Carlos and Holly were under court orders to stay away from Romika. Yet there they were, confronting her at her son's school, with witnesses, in broad daylight. That's crazy. So what's the purpose of having a restraining order if they go against it? One commentator posted. That's the question that haunts this case. What good are restraining orders if violating them carries no consequences until someone dies? Yesterday, 31-year-old Romika Meeks was shot and killed outside her child's school right after dropping off her son. According to police, the tragedy began with a physical altercation involving her and another woman. Despite an active restraining order, witnesses say her child's father physically restrained her while his girlfriend shot her. The system that was supposed to protect Romika failed her completely. The restraining order she'd filed, the legal boundaries she'd tried to establish, the court orders that should have kept Carlos and Holly away from her, none of it mattered when it counted most. And now Holly is trying to exploit the very system that failed Romika to escape justice for her murder. She claims to have acted in self-defense, citing a restraining order she had against Romika Meeks. How's that for twisted logic? Holly claims she needed to defend herself against the same woman she and Carlos had deliberately confronted, the same woman Carlos physically restrained while Holly shot her multiple times. While Holly and Carlos spin their lies, Romika's family is left to grieve and fight for the truth. Her cousin spoke with Channel 2 Now, stating, "This is my cousin, and what's being reported is not accurate. He was physically fighting my cousin when his girlfriend got out of the car and shot her. This was not an act of self-defense, and Romika was not fighting over him." The family isn't just mourning, they're actively combating the false narrative that Romika somehow provoked her own murder. They know what kind of woman she was. They know she wasn't fighting over Carlos. She'd moved on. She'd filed for protection. She was building a life without him. Meek's family has asked the public to respect their privacy and to refrain from sharing graphic videos of the incident that have circulated online. Her sister issued a public plea for such footage to be removed out of respect for the victim and her loved ones.
Please, y'all. Please stop sharing them poses of my sister, please. Please stop sharing that post of my baby sister on that ground, please. Get y'all, please. For my mama and for me and my siblings' sake. Please, y'all. My sister is gone. Yes, she is. Please.
Let Jenny get out and cuss their ass out.
Please, I see y'all calling everything. I can't. I'm doing this to let y'all know I am very broken. Me and my family is broken. Please, y'all, please. Give us some time to respond. To talk to y'all, to anything. Please, y'all. My baby sister is gone. Please. The worst is pain ever. I just want y'all to understand. If y'all never understand in y'all life, I didn't know how I had to do. Anybody lost a sibling, y'all, I don't know. I didn't know this hurt like this. Please, y'all, stop sharing that video.
Imagine having to ask people to stop sharing videos of your sister's murder. Imagine watching strangers debate whether your loved one deserved to die while graphic footage of her final moments circulates on social media. This family isn't just dealing with grief, they're fighting for Romika's dignity in death, just as she fought for her safety in life. At the center of this tragedy is a little boy who will never be the same. The child who received that final love note, who was dropped off at school that morning with no idea it would be the last time he'd see his mother alive. Happy Monday, son, this is a fresh start to this day and you can start off strong. Always remain yourself, you're the coolest, smartest and funniest kid I know. I love you so much. Love, Mommy. Those words, meant to encourage him for just one day, have become the last message he'll ever receive from the woman who loved him most. The lunch she packed that morning, the note she wrote with such care, the kiss goodbye she gave him, all of it has taken on a weight no child should ever have to carry. This little boy now has to grow up knowing that his father helped orchestrate his mother's murder. He'll have to process the fact that the man who should have protected his mother instead held her while another woman killed her. How do you explain that to a child? How do you help him understand that the love note in his lunchbox was actually a goodbye? The ripple effects of this violence extend far beyond the immediate tragedy. This child will need therapy, support, love from extended family, and somehow, someway, he'll need to find a path forward without the woman who was his whole world. This case isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a deadly pattern that plays out across America every day. News of the attack has come primarily from social media, but reports say Meek's ex, Carlos Lozo's Way, put her in a headlock while his new partner shot and killed Meeks at close range. This is what femicide looks like. When women try to leave toxic relationships, when they dare to set boundaries, when they refuse to remain under someone else's control, they become targets. The very act of seeking independence becomes a death sentence. Romika's crime was daring to move on. Her offense was filing for protection. Her mistake was believing that a restraining order could actually restrain someone determined to hurt her. The statistics are staggering. Women are most likely to be killed by intimate partners when they're trying to leave or have recently left a relationship. The period immediately following separation is the most dangerous time for women escaping domestic violence. Romika knew this. That's why she filed the restraining order. That's why she tried to create legal boundaries. She understood the danger she was in. She just believed the system would protect her. As we wait for the legal system to process this case, crucial questions remain unanswered. Why haven't charges been filed against Carlos for violating the restraining order? Why isn't he facing charges for his role in restraining Romika while Holly shot her? I found out the shooter was arrested, but I also need the child's father arrested for violation of a restraining order, inflicting physical harm to MS. Meeks leading to her demise and inflicting emotional harm to a minor. One advocate wrote on social media. The community is demanding accountability not just for the shooter, but for everyone who participated in this deadly conspiracy. Carlos wasn't an innocent bystander. He was an active participant in Romika's murder. How do we prevent the next tragedy like this? How do we make restraining orders meaningful? How do we protect women who are trying to escape dangerous relationships? These aren't just rhetorical questions. They're urgent policy challenges that require immediate attention from lawmakers, law enforcement, and community leaders. True Crime Family, this case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about domestic violence, femicide, and the deadly consequences of treating women's safety as a low priority. Romika Meeks did everything she was supposed to do. She left the toxic relationship. She filed for legal protection. She built an independent life. She focused on raising her son with love and encouraging him to be his best self. Her reward for all that strength? Execution in broad daylight while dropping her child off at school. This story isn't over. Holly Johnson remains in custody, likely facing murder charges. But will Carlos face any consequences for his role? Will the system that failed Romika learn from this tragedy? I want to hear from you in the comments. What do you think should happen to Carlos? Should violating a restraining order carry more serious consequences? How do we protect women who are trying to escape dangerous relationships? If this case has affected you, if you believe Romika's story deserves to be heard, hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. When updates come in this case, and they will, you'll be the first to know. Share this video with someone who needs to hear Romika's story. Because the more we talk about cases like this, the more pressure we put on the system to protect women instead of failing them. Most importantly, if you or someone you know is in a dangerous relationship, please reach out for help. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. Your life is worth more than someone else's need to control you. Romika Meeks deserved so much more than 31 years. Her son deserved to grow up with his mother's love notes and encouragement. Her family deserved to watch her achieve her nursing dreams. Instead, they're left with memories, with grief, and with a love note that was never meant to be a goodbye. Remember her name. Remember her story. And demand better from the system that was supposed to protect her. Until next time, True Crime Family, stay safe out there. And remember, your voice matters, your safety matters, and justice for Romika matters. What case should I cover next? Drop your suggestions below, and I'll see you in the next video.